Well, hi everybody, this is DearMamaSal, and it is Friday, and I'm not in the usual place. You will notice that for those of you who are regulars, and the reason for that is because I have a house showing today, and I, didn't want to mess up my dining room, and then, I've got a very short space of time in which to get it all tidy again. So what I'm going to do is to do the broadcast from here. The good news is I'll be able to do the evening one from the usual place. So welcome to my spare room. For those of you who like doing the tour, that is my shredder. And that is the, what is that size bed? Double, I think. And that is where Big Brother Jeff slept. And here I am at the desk at the other end of the room. All right, so hope you're enjoying that one. All right, today I have decided to do something about overwhelm. And the reason for that is because I have so many viewers who are dealing with different levels of overwhelm. Just bear with me a second. The one thing I didn't bring with me was my tablet, and I just want to get what I need up on my phone here. Just now, I'm going to go and get my tablet. Just hold on one second. I can have a good look at the room. Okay, there we go. All right, sorry about that. Amazing, I had everything all set up except the one thing that was important to me for today. All right, the reason, as I said, that I wanted to do the subject on overwhelm is because we have so many people who are struggling with different things at this particular time. And I think it's important for us to revisit those steps. Now, I thought about the fact that, what was I going to use an example? So I thought what I'd do is literally give you the example of what happened to me yesterday, just so that you can see how I juggled all those different things coming at me, and then hopefully was pretty relaxed about the outcome. So I just want to give a heads up, by the way, for those of you who know Charlotte, it's her birthday on Monday. I did want to just mention that. All right, so overwhelm, what is it? I sort of looked up the official definition, and, basically it is to be buried or drowning, some of you know that feeling, beneath a huge mass. And it is, I think I would add a word. I think I would add the perception of being buried or drowning, right? That's what it feels like, all right? That that, it's just all weighing down so heavily, and will I ever be able to cope with all of this? And so what I wanted to do is to give you a graphic. And I think it's important that you can see what happens here. All right, so if this is me, oh, maybe I should put some clothes on. All right, if this is me, and you could say that I started off feeling pretty happy when I got up yesterday. And, I realized that I needed to do my usual Thursday things. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I sort of have different days in the week when I do different things. So, excuse me. So I knew I had my usual sort of tasks, which, didn't weigh very heavily on me, quite honestly, because, they're usual. But then, of course, you both know that by Thursday, I need to be pretty good about having Friday's broadcast for noon, that's this one, ready. Plus, I needed to have the evening one ready. And that's now beginning to stack up. And then I also heard that they wanted to do a showing. Now, a showing, and can I make that heavier? A showing is heavier because it requires so much work, all right? It requires basically cleaning the whole house. Hi, Erin. How are you doing, honey? It includes cleaning up the whole house. And what I found out, they wanted to do the showing between the two broadcasts. I don't know about you, but that's like, how am I going to cope with all of that on a Friday? So that was even extra stress. All right. Then over and above that, I had a little bit of personality stuff come in, a little bit of somebody mishearing something I said, and it ended up with a judgment and stuff like that going on. Now, if I've got all this weighing down on me, all right, how much room do I have left for an emergency? Not very much is the answer. And so if you understand that all this is now feeling very heavy. Now, Erin, I know you know all about this, and I want to give you kudos because what you have been coping with this week is amazing. And that's why I wanted to hopefully give you a little bit of credit for all that you're coping with. And Erin, if it's okay for me to mention that, let me know, just so that I can use this graphic to just demonstrate it. So this is what overwhelm looks like. Now, Jody, you've got your version of it, all right? You've got your father-in-law, plus your medical issues, plus the issues with the van that's meant to take you to your medical appointments, all these things weighing down, all right? But what I've noticed, Jody, is in the last few months, you have really stopped being victim. And when you do get to be victim, you own it. You know immediately that, you give it a score, life 1 point and Jody zip. But I want you to see how well you're doing. Erin, I've been amazed talking to you this week, just how well you are coping with all of this. And I'm sure it is not true of you all of the time. And I want to really thank you for the great compliment you paid when you said, the only bit of sanity was when you were on the broadcast. So I thank you. And that's why I wanted to dedicate this. Okay, so all right, I don't know the organization, so that's not an issue. All right, so what I want to show you, for those of you who know Erin or don't know Erin, I want to show you what she's trying to cope with at the moment. Okay. So Erin sadly is dealing with the passing of her father a few days ago. Now, even though that we all knew that he was sick, I don't think any of us, including Erin, expected him to go this quickly. So that was a huge weight of overwhelm, because 1 minute everything's already, difficult, but now suddenly it's really difficult. So if you can imagine that what Erin's dealing with now is not only the grief of this happening, but now the organization of everything that goes with this, all right? So I think you are executor, is that right? Executrix, actually, of the estate, and also, responsible for the end of life things that are happening. So what happens now is that Erin cannot just grieve because she's dealing with all these other organizational issues. You've got funeral directors calling you, trying to find out, what you want done. You've got, so many decisions to be made that quite honestly you don't want to be making because you want to grieve. And so this is way bigger than my stuff. But the reason I decided to show you what I did yesterday is hopefully give you all something that you can relate to that is outside of yourself, because I think sometimes it is easier to learn that when it's not personal. And so, but Erin, you're doing an awesome job. And I just, I am, part of me is stunned and the other part of me is not surprised. Okay, so let's get rid of that. So can you understand that when you've got that load of stuff going on, and Jody, with you and Lionel and your stuff, right, it ends up being not quite such a happy person. So I want to go back to what was happening to me. All right, so you understand I was in... Right. Okay, so Erin is saying, yes, she has helped, and she just wants to mention that she has got one person helping her. Yeah, even so, Erin, even so, don't minimize it, honey. It's huge stress, huge. And, it's just so many decisions that you don't want to make. So here we go. This is called overwhelm, all right? The feeling of being buried or drowning in too much. And so the first thing that is important, of course, is for us to work out what needs to be done. And to do that, we need to prioritize. So I'm going to tell you what was going on for me. I want to find a red pen. There we go. I want to sort of just put up what was going on for me so you can relate to this. Apparently the brown doesn't like to come off as much as the other colors. Let's hope this is a dry erase. Anybody know that feeling? A water-based marker, that sounds good. Hi, Linda. Okay, so here's what we remember. I've got the usual Thursday tasks. I've got okay. I've got the broadcasts. I've got the showing. And then I've got the personal issue. And then I've got, what else? What else is possible? So here's what I want to just check with you. What is it essential? Yes. All right. So Erin is explaining what causes the problem. And I that's exactly what I was going to talk about, Erin. And I'm going to draw it down here. I don't know if you guys can see this. This is the number of tasks. Actually, I'm going to do it the other way. Hang on a second. This is tasks, but this is what causes even more stress, and that's the time in which you have to do it. Okay? So if you've got this many tasks, but you've got this much time to do it, that isn't very, very stressful. It's obviously a little bit of overload, but it's when you've got this many tasks and they have to be completed by here that becomes really stressful, which is why prioritization is really important. Hi there, Britt. We're talking about overwhelm. All right, so what Erin is saying, that her biggest problem was she had to deal with a lot of these things immediately, like within 24 hours. Jody, I wonder if you can just update people just so that I don't need to keep going backwards. That would be awesome. All right, so first thing is, how important are my usual Thursday tasks? Suddenly they get downgraded. They're not as important as they normally would be. The broadcasts, how important were they to me? They were very important to me, but I was also aware that I could cancel them. Overwhelm means that the feeling of having so much, Britt, this is why you may want to replay it from the beginning when you get a chance. It's the feeling of having too many things to do and not enough time. All right, so broadcasts, I wanted to do them, so they were high priority for me, but I also knew I could cancel them, all right, because it's under my control to cancel them. So, but this was a pretty big number one for me at this point. The showings, very important because I'm trying to sell my house. But on the other hand, can I ask them to cancel it? I could have done. Does that make sense? So this is all about to understand that not everything has to be as stressful as you think. Unlike Erin, she had to make a decision about something that day or else it wasn't going to happen. Thanks, Jody. All right, so this also is pretty important. I'm going to put that as number 2. The personal issue, I knew the person well enough to know that we would sort this out. So although it was important to me, it wasn't critical. So we'll put that as number 3. And then here was the thing that I realized was I was so overwhelmed with all these tasks that I needed a bit of space for this. What if an emergency came in? Am I in the right frame of mind? Erin, I want you to think about this for a second, honey. Because what I decided was the most important thing for me to do was this one. I'm going to put that as number 0, because it was important for me to actually give myself the right space, mind space, to be able to do all the rest. Now, some of you are probably saying, why would you waste your time? And by the way, I decided to do something creative. Why would you waste your time being creative when you've got all these other things that you have to do? Erin, it's about freeing up your mind so it can make creative decisions, all right? So that you've got the space to do that. Right, and Erin's saying there was a lot involved in making that decision, right? It wasn't just a simple decision. Yeah, and it's horrible when you have to make what is a life decision and you don't have very much time in which to do it. Totally understand it. We're going to be talking about that. All right, so can you see that you might not have done it, but I decided to start here to free up my mind so that I'd be relaxed doing everything else and just not get into total overwhelm. All right. So, Erin, one of the things I would encourage you to do is take a little slot of every day and do something creative. I don't care how small it is, but really encourage you to do that. Right, and that's what Erin's saying. I had to put myself in the right mind space so I wasn't emotional, because I was doing this for my daddy and I had to forget about that and just do it, or else I wouldn't have been able to. Exactly. All right, so we agree on this one. All right, so what I did was I started, apparently that red doesn't like it either. We already knew that, didn't we? Okay, so I'm going to go through it bit by bit so you can just get a sense of it. All right, once you've prioritized, as you're going through it, also assess how much value it has, all right, to you or others. For example, the broadcast, if I talk to a lot of people, they would have said, well, that's not really important, right? Because that's somebody else's judgment. And I said, oh, actually, for me, it actually is important because I know I've got so many of you who are struggling at the moment, with various things. So I'm just trying to get this a little cleaner. Remind me not to use that red one again, please. Better, right? All right. So you understand what is important to me might not be important to other people. And I would really encourage you, when you're doing this prioritization, not to worry about what's important to other people, worry about what's important to you. However, Erin, that decision you had to make was a double whammy because it was important and it had to be made that day. Totally get it. All right, so one of the things that I wanted to say is assess, right? Do you understand that? Assess the value of that particular task to you before you assess it for anybody else. So for me, it was really important to do the broadcast, right? I knew I could cancel them, but for me, it's really important, as you know. And then the other thing I would encourage you to do is really assessing that and then systematically doing all the tasks. Now, the Brit is busy telling me that running late stresses him out. So the most important thing about how often do you run late, Brit? Because do you understand that running late is your choice? Right? If you don't plan your day properly, if you don't set your alarms, if you spend often, if you spend, too much time online and not enough time doing other things, all right, that can happen. All right, so you're saying it doesn't happen very often. That's great. All right. But what I want you all to see is these are not tasks over which Erin has control. All right. And some of these I didn't have. I have probably more control because I'm not a victim anymore. I no longer see things as out of my control. I just ask myself, how do I get this within my control? Jody, I noticed you did a really good job with that, with the problem with your transportation. You really started to go, okay, how do I get this back under my control? Because I'm fed up with not having it in my control. All right, so what I wanted to just that, if you are just new to the broadcast and haven't watched us before, please understand we do 3 different broadcasts every week. The Friday lunchtime, this one is normally a learning type one. The Friday evening one, which is at 7 Pacific time, that one is a smile broadcast. And then we do another one on a Sunday, which I call the soul broadcast, where we just do almost a meditation and not so much chit chat. And we just get ourselves ready for the week. So if you see that there is a subscribe button somewhere on your screen, probably over there, Jody, let me know if I've got it right. Is the subscribe button over there? I know that I want to say it's over here, but I've got a feeling that means I have to invert it and put it over there. And so Please do that. And there is also, I got it right. Okay, so hit the subscribe button. And there is a bell also below here somewhere. And so what I would suggest is if you click on that bell, it'll let you know when we're doing a broadcast. And please just also remember to follow DearMamaSal on both Facebook and on Twitter, because that's where I put up, I use it like my newsletter, if you like. And for those of you who might not know it, we also have a website, DearMamaSal.com. All right, so I prioritized those tasks that I had, and then I started to work on them. All right, so you understand that I didn't have to be a victim. I could make the broadcasts an important part of my life, or I could cancel them. How many of you would have just canceled them? You know, let me talk to you about this, because I want you to see that more often than we understand, we do have options. We don't think we do, but when you really work it out, we do have options, all right? And I think sometimes, Jody, that you have realized that you are not necessarily as big a victim as you thought you were. If I compare 2 years ago now to what I see you doing today, it really makes me smile, because you definitely are going, I don't like this. I don't like what it does to me. I don't like this much drama. Therefore, I need to do something to stop it. That's what I heard. I see you doing. So, Jody, a big kudos and round of applause, because you are doing something to stop the drama. I also find, right, so Jody's saying my old self would have canceled, the new me would make it work, right? Because that's called motivation. Does that make sense to everybody? You can either go, oh, it's too much, I can't do it, done. Or I can say to myself, you know, you can do this, you just got to plan it right. All right. Now, I'm also thinking about those of you who know Lauren. Lauren is dealing with a grandfather who is dying of cancer. And then she also has nieces who are critically, who appear to be in and out of hospital, as many times as you and I probably do, wash our sheets. So a lot of drama. And what I wanted to say to you from my experience is what makes life a lot more tolerable is get rid of as much drama in your life as you can. Have a look at what's causing you drama. What causes those spikes? If you want to have, if you want to have a life that is sort of flowing like this, it's going to have its ups and downs, all right? Then you you may choose to create it. And how many of you have lives that do this? This is what my life used to look like, drama. I was either overwhelmingly happy or I was almost in depression. So I really decided that I wanted to change that. And what I'm now looking for is a life that just has its ups and downs, but it flows pretty easily within that. Okay, so let's go on. You agree that I could have canceled the broadcast, but I decided not to. All right, so now what did I need to do for the broadcast? Because that's also an important thing. Jody probably knows more about this than any of you. But let me tell you, I needed to decide on what, excuse me. I needed to decide what topics, both for lunchtime now and for this evening, because I had to have both broadcasts sorted before I went to sleep last night. Not only that, if you think about it, well, I'll get to that bit. All right, but so the first thing is I needed a topic for lunchtime. You understand? That was the thing that was coming at me first, lunchtime broadcast. So I needed a topic, and what I did was that I went back to where I keep some notes on ideas for future broadcasts. And Jody, this one was easy because I knew overwhelm was definitely a subject we needed to talk about, but it was, what am I going to do for the Friday evening one? And then that's where I went back and I had a look. And I remembered that we had said it would be really fun to do a broadcast about what certain students had said, on test papers. And so that is our topic for this evening, which, by the way, there are some classic ones. I really broke up laughing just even researching that. So that was the first thing, decide on a topic. The other thing is, I don't know if any of you have found this, and Erin, I don't know whether this is working for you, but it really helps to compartmentalize things. All right, I'm going to concentrate on, let me put this as C for costs. I'm going to concentrate on costs. And then I'm going to concentrate on my house, and then I'm going to concentrate on oh, hello, Sharon. And I'm glad that being overwhelmed is a perfect subject. Make sure you listen to the front end if you haven't already. All right, we know I needed room, I needed constant, oh, this is creative. So I had basically 4 things, the costs, oh, I got 5, the showings. What was this one? Okay, I'll think of it. Anyway, I needed to be creative and I needed room to have an emergency happen. So what I did was to put all these into their own little boxes, if you like, or in this case, circles. So let's start with the broadcasts. All right, now, as usual, house, thank you for the showings. That was what it was. Thank you, Sharon. So as usual, it helps to do a mind map. Who, what, why, where, when, how. Okay, this is the easiest way to get through it, even though it takes a little bit extra time to do it. Even if you do it without drawing it out, think it out. For the broadcast, who needs to be there? I do, all right? That's pretty easy done. What am I going to talk about? That I already decided it was going to be on overwhelm for lunchtime. Why? Because it's really important to know why. Did you know that? Why are you going to do something? It's really important to understand why. And my why was because so many of you, and now let me add Sharon to the list, who needed to be reminded. I know you all know how to do it, but it helps sometimes to be reminded. Where? That was interesting. I didn't want to do it in my dining room because it would make a mess and that would affect the house thing, all right? So I went, hey, I'm certain nobody's going to mind if I do it in my spare bedroom. So you don't mind, do you? Everybody okay with it? You see, imagine Big Brother Jeff sleeping there. And yeah, there we are. How do you like my clock that I made? And by the way, it looks like there isn't any art in here, but that is not true. Some on that wall. And that's one of my favorite pieces of art, by the way. I really love that one. All right, so where? And I understood that I was going to do the first broadcast from this room because I could just literally shut everything down and it could stay exactly where it is if necessary. And then I could move it when I came back. All right, and when I knew the time, that wasn't a problem. How? Now, the how was interesting to me because Jody will tell you that it takes a while to actually sort out a broadcast for me, especially the one on a Friday lunchtime. because I do it in a format. And so that required thinking time. Does that make sense to everybody? I need to be able to sit and think of all the bits that, what is overwhelm? Why do we need to talk about it? All that sort of stuff. Who, what, why, where, when, and how. So when I was doing that, I thought, I don't want to spend a lot of time doing it, but I do need to spend time doing it. So what I decided was there were certain times in the day where I sat. And that would be the time that I spend in my washroom. And so I thought, what if I do all the planning for the broadcast in my bathroom when I need to go visit it? Does that make sense to anybody? That's a time when I need to sit and probably spend more time in there than I actually do. Instead of rushing, I'm going to sit there and I'm just going to take one more step, one more step, one more step. So what I did was exactly that. And I started with the topic, all right, of overwhelm, and literally worked my way through it. So to me, this how was the most important decision I made. So my little thing about compartmentalizing, I didn't have to worry about the broadcast until I went to go visit the washroom. Does that make sense? That is thinking time. And so what I did was I took my phone in there and I made sure that my phone was plugged in. I made sure that I had the format set up. And then after a while, I decided the phone was too small. So I got the tablet and it was easier. Thanks, Britt. And so to me, this was like, okay, this is now my new workstation on the broadcast. What was surprising is how easy it was to put most of the bits together. Because when it got to last night, bye-bye, Britt, when it got to last night, I was able to just put the finishing touches to it. All right, am I making sense to everybody? Do you understand? I didn't have to worry about it all the time. Every time I went to the washroom, that's when I thought about the broadcast. And I took the next step forward, whatever that next step was. So the next thing was the house, getting it ready for the showing. What I started was to go through this room, my studio, the living room, dining room, and my decks. And I literally just went from room to room. Now you can imagine, because I am showing my house a lot, this basic layout is how it stays, all right? So what this room needed was a quick dust. And by the way, it didn't even really need that because I just, just done it after BBG left, or after Jeff left. Hi, Kerry. And so this room was pretty tidy anyway. And it will be even tidier when I finish the broadcast. The studio, oh, wait, I didn't start with the creative. Would you like to see what I did that was creative? And let me see if I can hang on a sec. All right, so the creative side, I literally took a little while and I made some trivets, which I haven't quite finished yet, but these are a couple of trivets that I made, things on which you can put a casserole dish or whatever. And also, I've been making these coasters, pretty color, right? And what I found, oh, this isn't what I did. It was the other ones I did. Okay, doesn't matter. But I've got another set like this. Let me get them, hold on. Okay, so what I found was that when I paint them, I want to show you this. When I paint these, you know, I always get paint on the bottoms of them, and it was frustrating me because it's really quite a job to get the paint off again. And then what I found was that you can actually buy these rounds, these cork rounds. And so what I did was I put new cork rounds on the bottom. How many of you going, stealth? Right? So instead of trying to clean up the mess, I just put a cork round underneath it. So this particular coaster is now finished. However, it changes the depth. Without the coaster, the cork added, they fit perfectly into this. But in here, when you put that on, and I'm going, I don't really mind. You know, it's like, yeah, that would have fitted perfectly, but now I've got, it's worth it to me not to have to spend all the time cleaning up the bottoms. Okay, so that was it. So total amount of time that I spent being creative was probably an hour, including the cleanup. Okay, and I consider that was the most important hour I spent. Why? Because that sort of got me in a good frame of mind to do the rest. It was just like, I can do this. All right, so now then, let me have a look. While I was doing that, I was thinking about, you know, I was obviously thinking about the broadcast a little bit, you know, even though I was busy being creative. Plus, I was thinking about the evening broadcast and how can I make sure everybody smiles. And so for me, I was happy. You know what I mean? I sort of got a lot of it. How many of you found that if you can process it out in your head, that is the most, you know, relaxing thing to do? You go, okay, fine, I know where I'm going with this. So that was an awesome way for me to start. All right, then I thought about the showing of the house. Right, it's going to happen between the two broadcasts, and that is, you know, pretty stressful because I find, you know, with all that it takes to do the broadcast and actually preparing for them and everything, Fridays are pretty stressful for me. And, you know, to add a showing onto it was, you know, just that much more than I wanted. But if I, you know, maybe I can get a better price for my house, who knows? So I basically did clean the rooms as much as I needed to in each room, with the exception of my bathroom and bedroom, because they're the, you know, those are the last things I clean anyway when I'm doing a showing. So everything else in the house, including my kitchen, is all set up, ready to go. All right. I'll be able to close the computer here, just tidy up a little bit, and then go to my bathroom, clean that up, go to my bedroom, dust it one final time, and then I'm done. Does that make sense? So I am prepared for that. By the way, I also did mundane things, like I emptied the garbage all around, because you don't want people, you know, smelling your organic spin or whatever. You know, I did the recycling stuff. I threw that out in case they lift that lid. And I, you know, by the way, emptied the waste paper baskets in the bathrooms, things like that, right? Just get everything so that it's pretty clean. By the way, the trick here is, how many of you still have a plastic bag in your waste paper basket in your bathroom? Do any of you keep a plastic bag there, and then you just pick up the bag and take it wherever you need to go? What you learn to do, what you learn to do, if you want the bathroom to look immaculately tidy, stick a second one on top of it, Kerry, right? In other words, you've got the plastic bag, you've got your nyaga, as they say in Zulu, your garbage, and then what you do is you put another plastic bag and over the top. Looks so much better. And so if you don't have time to empty it, right, it still looks like it's been emptied. It's one of those nice little tricks, right? The other thing I did is I vacuumed. And, excuse me, I vacuumed all the obvious places. I will go around again in the space in between the two broadcasts and the showing. I will go around again just because little bits can drop overnight and so forth. You'll be amazed how much hair drops, overnight. So anyway, I vacuumed throughout, and then I also have my little shark vacuum. Have any of you seen that one? I want to tell you, I really love my shark. I should actually, hang on a sec. Now, you all know that I've got a robot machine, but a robot machine is not what I use when I'm in a hurry. The robot, Clarence the robot, I do that once a week just so that it can do the main areas. But quickly trying to clean up for a showing, I will use this. It's called a Shark, and it is a rechargeable handheld. By the way, it does the stairs beautifully because it's only this wide. So it's great for doing the staircase and everything. And it's great for just quickly going around the house. Where are the bits? So to me, this is a must-have in my house, along with Clarence, because different machines do different things, right? It saves a lot of time. Plus, what I found, what I love about this Shark is it does the patios really well, right? It's a pretty well-built machine, and I can take it out. Yeah, I can take it out and do the front of my house, under the eaves area. No, I wouldn't go out in the rain with it, but, under the eaves where, leaves, it's that time of year, the leaves are falling. I can collect an awful lot of leaves using this. And I can do both my decks very quickly. If it's not raining, obviously. If it's wet, then I don't use my Shark. But so just to let you know, that is a multi-functioning machine in my view. All right. The other thing I did, because it was important, was my usual Thursday tasks was to do the two, actually I was going to do 2 washes. But I did the first one and then realized I didn't have time for the second. So I put all that washing into my hall closet, ready for tomorrow. I'm just hoping they don't open up my hall closet because I've got a laundry basket full of wash in there. And if they do, so be it. Not my problem, right? All right, so that's what I did. Now then, the next issue I had was that business about I'd had a misunderstanding with a friend. I decided that the best thing I could do in terms of putting it in a box and dealing with it was not to deal with it today. Do as little as possible. Don't engage, don't try and justify anything. I just went, I'm responsible for my side of this, right? Remember that. And so I wrote a quick email or a text and said, hey, I'm sorry there was the misunderstanding. I want to apologize for this, this, and this. End of story. I didn't need the other person to agree with me. I didn't need the other person to apologize. I didn't need anything except to do my part. Does that make sense? All right. And, this is not the end of the world. And I knew that, time will sort this out, but the time didn't need to be yesterday. So I just did what I needed to do, which is my side of it. It took me probably less than 5 minutes. I did what I needed to do to be responsible for my behavior. And then I moved straight on. That was like, okay, I've done what I can. Let me move on. What happens after this probably can be dealt with on Saturday. Making sense? Didn't have to spend an hour on it trying to fix it, make it all better, whatever. No. All right. So because I needed the space in case there was a bigger emergency coming in, I am so glad that I actually did spend the time being creative, because I really did feel a lot more grounded the whole day because of it. And I would encourage all of you dealing with overwhelm to do that. So I want to go back to, those of you who are coping. Sharon, I don't know if you can discuss what it is that you are overwhelmed with, but if you can, and it's okay for me to talk about it, just let us know on the feed here so that we can help you with it. But, I looked at all the overwhelm that Erin's dealing with the passing of her daddy. I looked at Lauren and all that she is dealing with the illness of her grandfather, with all the drama with her nieces. As I said, I looked at Jody with her issues with the transportation that she's got problems with, plus, the problems that she's got with her father-in-law. I looked at Beth, who is overwhelmed with work again. And then, I was thinking about Kimmy, the list goes on and on, all right? And I just thought everybody, for some reason, is dealing with a level of overwhelm. And so that's why it was really important for me that we talk about it today. And what I wanted you to see is it's not about what we get weighed down with, all right? If we go back to that original thing. Okay, it's not how much goes on here. It's how we deal with that, all right? And if we deal with it with priorities, if we deal with it in terms of its value to us, if we deal with each of these in terms of being systematic, right? Remember the story about, doing all the planning for the broadcast in my washroom. It was really interesting when I went to bed last night and, okay, now I can really concentrate. I could, I had enough done to be able to just go put a couple of bits onto the broadcast stuff, and it was basically done. I needed to do a thumbnail and to do the promotion piece, but that was all that needed to be done. And I was so grateful for the fact that really that little bit of time I spent in the washroom, be it that I do that fairly regularly in the day, but it managed to get all the broadcasts sorted out. So think about that in your life. What is it you're trying to work on that you don't have time to work on? Because you're quite honestly, there have been times when I've taken, I don't mind admitting this, but there have been times when I've taken all my accounts into my washroom and had little boxes in front of me and literally been sorting my accounts while I was in the washroom. Why? Because I have to sit down then. Makes sense? It's just like, okay, fine. Let me just literally put 3 pieces of paper into into the right box every time I go to the washroom. So I must admit, I do use that time pretty well. Sharon's saying that she was helping a friend with a health issue. And then you found out you have your own health problem. And then the friend had done something really stupid. I'm sorry to hear that. Right, so what Sharon decided to do was, because of what she determined was a pretty stupid move by the friend, she has now released the friend. Something, Sharon? Please release her with love, all right? And pray for the strength for her to make the right decisions. The reason I say that is that you're a nice person, in my view, all right? And I think, this is about you're releasing her so that you don't judge her. I understand that. All right. And I've done that with my friends as well. But what I've tried to do is to continue to pray for them to find the strength to make the right decisions, because that sort of balances it out. I really don't want to lose them forever. I just, cannot cope with the drama of it. And so, I think the important thing, Sharon, is that to understand that concentrating on yourself is not a bad thing. It's something that we feel bad about because we don't think we're important enough. So I'm delighted that you can see that. All right. So what you've decided to do is not worry about her, not let go of the friendship, but not spend your time worrying about her. Do you know, Sharon, I think when you are capable of doing that, that is called being a friend. When I don't know if I ever sent it to you, Sharon, but I have a really nice graphic that somebody gave me once. And on the one side, it says, these are the actions and thoughts of an enabler, and these are the actions and thoughts of a friend. And the funny thing is, one of the most important parts of that is, a friend trusts that their friend will be able to sort this out. They do not feel responsible for sorting out other people's problems. Now, the fact that you may help them every now and then is a different thing, but you don't feel responsible for helping them do everything, all right? Because you know better, you know how to get this fixed, You really don't, right? It's their life. So well done. Stepping away is a really good thing. However, Sharon, what I find works really well, because somebody did it to me, and I was amazed at the impact. Every now and then, just send them a hug, whether you text it, whether you do it on the phone or whatever, because what a hug does is to tell them, hey, I still care about you. And I want to tell you that I make a point of, when I think about people during the day, I try, I don't get to do it every time, but quite often I try just to send them a hug and say, hey, I was thinking of you. Here's a hug. Because when I was in absolute overwhelm at one point of my life, I had one friend who did that. And she would leave me messages. It was on the days before we had smartphones and things, but she would leave me messages on my telephone, and it would be, here's a hug. That's what I wanted to give you. That's all. You don't have to phone me back. Boom. And put the phone down. And it was so wonderful that she didn't need me to call her back. How many of you know that feeling? When you're in total overwhelm, you don't want to now have to phone somebody and pretend to be happier than you are. Right? So to me, this is like, sending a hug is a really good thing. Hey, I just wanted to send you a hug. Bye. So think about that one. All right, so do any of you have any questions that we can discuss, or a stressful situation that we can discuss before we get on to doing some quotes? So just let me know if you've got any. And I will try and cover what I can for you. Hang on a second. I'm going to just call up the quotes here. I've got a couple on overwhelming tasks that I want to start with, because that is really what we're talking about. All right, so. All right, Sharon. So, Sharon, do you want me to talk about that for the replay, or you already know that one, so I'm not going to worry. Okay. So, Sharon, do you know that I had that done twice, right? All right, so what Sharon's saying is she's got a melanoma, and that's a bit of skin cancer. And her doctor wants to remove it in the surgery. Now, how many of you are going, how about that one? Well, I can remember when my doctor said to me, and he's a guy, and he said, okay, fine, I need to remove something I don't like the look of. So I'm going to book you an appointment and we'll do it here in the office. And I said, Sharon, you know me really well. I said, let me see what we're talking about here. Are you telling me that you want to operate on my back, right, in the surgery here? He goes, yeah, it'll be fine. So I said, well, before you do that, can I check something? And he said, what? And I said, how did you do on your operating part of your medical stuff? He said, what? I said, I want to know, did you sort of pass or did you do really well? Because you're talking about, cutting into my dermis here. You messed that up. I'm in big trouble. He burst out laughing. He said, I did just fine. And I did, okay. Anyway, so I think the first thing, Sharon, is get a sense of humor about it. They are doing that incision more often than you probably know. And the other thing, Sharon, is I don't know where it is in your body, and I don't necessarily have to, but mine was on my back. And really, would you like to know what happened, just so that you know? Because I think sometimes not knowing is half the problem. All right, because when you know, it is somehow or other, it makes it easy. Okay, fine. So literally, I walked in. It was almost after hours that they did it. I walked in. He said to me, Sal, I've sent the receptionist home because it's you, and we'll be fine. So a lot of trust. Now, I'm pretty sure that most doctors wouldn't do that, but anyway, he just said, hold on to these, and I was literally holding all the tools of the trade, the scalpel and everything else. And all that happened, Sharon, was he injected me with whatever, and the local anesthetic around where he was going to do the incision. And I feel the prick of the needle and the liquid. Yeah, nothing serious. Nothing that I would warn you about, other than the fact it was just an injection. And then he obviously waited a little bit. We were chit-chatting, and he said he must have put pins in me or something just to check that the local anesthetic had worked. And he said, okay, you can't feel that, can't feel that, can't feel that. How about this one? Yeah, I can feel that. And so he obviously went outside the field that he needed to anesthetize to make sure I wasn't having him on. And when he put the pin there, I could feel that. Okay, so we're good. By the way, Sharon, it was on my back, so I couldn't see what was going on. I think that made a difference. I want to say that. So I don't know where yours is, but I would say the trick is, not to be studying it, if you know what I mean. So the thing was, he must have done the incision because I did feel the blood start to run down my back, obviously off the anesthetized part. And I could feel him mopping it up. I could feel that to a certain degree. But I said to him, what if I faint? Will you catch me? And he said, no, I'll be catching my scalpel. Or the ones that you're carrying, he's got a great sense of humor. Sharon, I want to tell you, we chatted the whole way through it, right? I was busy chatting the way that I'm chatting to you, and he was busy doing whatever on my back. That is how undramatic it was. Am I making any sense on this one, Sharon? You know, it literally didn't hurt. I knew what he was doing. Right, so you got the same thing, doing a biopsy, all right? So literally on the back is great, Sharon. I'm amazed that she's doing an 8-inch incision. But to be fair, I had to go back for a second one. So probably better that she takes out more rather than less, because mine apparently, yeah. All right, so better they get rid of it. And isn't it wonderful, Sharon? Think about this. Isn't it wonderful that in this day and age, they can identify it and they can remove it, and you don't even have to go to hospital? I mean, that's, you know, when you think about it, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? Right? And so I've had it done twice, and I have I have to tell you, if you can, don't be fearful. All right? Keep talking. You know, even if your doctor isn't answering, just tell her, hey, you know. Actually, my doctor's really smart, because what he did, and you'll forgive me on this one, Sharon, but what he did was he said something like, so what do you think about what Mr. Trump did this week? You know, he knew that was a good conversation for me. You know, and I go, and so what he did was to keep letting me talk, because that would keep me relaxed. Does that make sense? So the other thing, is, if you're, my doctor is a chit chatter anyway. All right, we laugh a lot together. And if your doctor is not that sort of a person, then I would take music. All right, I'd take your favorite music and plug it in, and literally, you know, just be absorbed in the music. How long did it take, Sharon? Will be the next thing. I would say not very long, 15 minutes maximum. I would think maybe 20. And that would be everything. And so I forgot my antihistamine this morning, people. I'm sorry. So it didn't take very long. What did I do with my... Hang on a sec. And what else can I say about it? It was anticlimactic, I think, Sharon, if you know what I mean by that. It wasn't nearly as big a deal as I thought it was going to be. Any questions, Sharon? Has anybody else had it done? Mine was at shoulder blade level, I think. So basically also the upper back. Yeah. So let me know if you have any questions. Now, I thought this was a really nice quote about overwhelm. It came from Tyler Gregson, and he said, "Promise me you will not spend so much time treading water and trying to keep your head above the waves that you forget, truly forget, how much fun you had swimming." All right? So that's what I did yesterday, all right? I started by being creative, knowing that I could do all of this. I could fit it all in. I just needed to relax and do it systematically. Make sense? Don't get too tied up. Put it all in different compartments and work on each compartment. The other thing is, you remember getting the house tidied up. I started off by saying, what room needs the most help? And I started with that. All right. And then what's the next one? That's the next one. So that all I was left with was my bedroom and bathroom. It is said by Timber Hawkeye that you cannot calm the storm, so stop trying. What you can do is to calm yourself. The storm will pass. I think about Erin. Erin, these, few days, whatever, you cannot change it, right? It has to happen. As much as we don't want all this extra stress and all these extra decisions, it has to happen. It's really, really sad, but there is no getting away from it. There is no getting away from the stress of selling your property. So it's just, you have to deal with it. And dealing with it is in here. All right. Dealing with it is, as we keep saying, and it's so important, right? Dealing with it is deal with the emotion, and then you are left with the reality. Okay. And reality is the facts. These decisions have to be made. That's a fact, right? I am heartbroken is an emotion. Yes, you're allowed to be heartbroken, but prioritize what has to be done factually first. Then it leaves you room to grieve. Sharon, you found out a few facts. Do you feel better from hearing my experience or worse? You see, the point is, Sharon, I could be lying to you, right? It was terrible. No, you know me better than that. So to me, it's like, why would I don't know if you saw my body language when I first read what we're having done. I didn't react negatively at all, because why? Oh, been there, done that. Yeah, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So to me, finding out the facts is really important. If you want to be stressed out to the hilt, you can be, Sharon. That would be your choice. But if you want to go, okay, fine, this needs to be done. Let me do this the best way possible. By the way, will you be a little bit scared? Of course you will. You're human. So I actually, being me, I actually said, okay, I just want to tell you I'm a little bit scared here. But I don't want to concentrate on that. So let's find something we can talk about. Because I didn't want to concentrate on being scared. Right? Now, did I give some thought, Sharon? Could something go wrong? Yeah. Good. You're not stressing and you're feeling positive. Absolutely. But, also, deal in reality. Could something go wrong? Yep. Don't think something couldn't. Look what, I think something can always go wrong. And you have to go, what are the percentage chances? Not very great. You probably got more risk driving than you have doing that. By the way, I drove there and drove back. You probably want to know that as well. It wasn't that I had to get a cab home or anything. I literally drove there and drove back. The difficulty was I don't think I was allowed to shower for a couple of days. That was the only stressful part of it for me, I think. I don't often quote the Bible, but I thought this was a good quote that some of you would appreciate. It comes from Psalms 61, verse 2. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. All right. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, sometimes it's not a bad idea to have a little prayer. All right. And just go, please give me the strength to deal with all of this. I don't mind telling you, I did do that at one point. It is said that a woman who lives with the stress of an overwhelmed schedule will often ache with the sadness of an overwhelmed soul. So think about that, all right? A woman who lives with the stress of an overwhelmed schedule will often ache with the sadness of an overwhelmed soul. Beth, if you happen to listen to this broadcast, think about that one. Okay, so Sharon, what is the family not agreeing with? Just so I understand. I think sometimes, we just need to do what we need to do. We cannot wait for everybody to see what we see. Yeah, Sharon. Okay, are you ready to have a little bit of a chuckle, Sharon? So the reason that the family doesn't agree, they don't agree she should go by herself, right? Did you know why they don't think you should do that? Because they don't think they could. do you understand, Sharon? Because they wouldn't want to do that on their own. But I had somebody say to me, "Do you want me to go with you?" I went, "No, I don't believe it's that important. Yeah, I'd rather keep that trip when it's important." Nice to know that you considered it, though. So be thankful for the fact that they care. I would answer that by saying, "Hey, I want to thank you for offering to come with me. That was so kind of you. I feel the love." All right, but really, it's no biggie. They do this all the time. Mine only, by the way, Sharon, mine only required, I think, 2 or 3 stitches. I think the first time, maybe a few more the second, but it was a no-brainer. Right, now that's interesting, isn't it? Once you release the worry about your friend and concentrated on yourself, you were at peace about the treatment. Awesome. When are you having it done? I'm quite excited for you. The other thing, Sharon, and I think it's important, on Monday. Okay, Jody, can you just give me a reminder on that one, please? Sharon, something else I think I need you to know, because if you're the person I think you are, you might have asked yourself this question: what if there's more? Right? And I just want to tell you that I am touching wood. And wait a minute. I'm touching wood because I had this done about 2 years ago, I think. And I make sure that every year that we recheck I've got all sorts of funny moles and things, at this age, when you're my age, you get these funny looking moles coming all over the place. And I make sure I get those checked fairly regularly when I go in there. Probably twice a year, I say, can you just check all the moles? So the important thing, right, you're going to request a body scan. There you go. All right. That's an important thing to do. Yeah. And, there'll be people saying, why would you do that? I don't know about you, Sharon, but I'd rather know than not know. So you strike me as a very pragmatic person, somebody who can deal with reality. All right, she's going to see you every 30 days and then every 90 days. All right, that's called just to make sure. All right, I believe I had the same thing happen. I can't remember that, to be honest, but I'm pretty sure I had the same thing. By the way, Robert Sawyer said, learning to ignore things is one of the greatest paths to inner peace. How many of you can think of things that you need to ignore? Sharon? You realize that in order to be able to concentrate on yourself, you needed a bit more space. The way you got it was to ignore the problems of your friend. Not that you don't care, not that you don't want the best for her, But what you did was to ignore her problem. You don't have to fix it. That is her responsibility to fix it. And that is what brings peace. I think when you learn not to mess with everybody else's stuff, it's amazing how your life changes. How many of you have felt that, that you spent way too much time trying to fix everybody else and not enough time working on yourself? Now, some of you can smile and say, well, what about you, Sal? But, helping everybody else is part of my passion, all right? Trying to put a human face on things like stress and overwhelm, to me, is what I love to be able to do. So when I look at what is happening in my life, I am hoping that it is helping some of you see things differently. And I know that it is, because you write and tell me about that. Right? And, to me, that is the greatest gift. So, yeah, I spend quite a bit of time helping other people, but I do it for a different way. And when I say I do it for a different way, I see it as a teaching rather than a fixing. Does that make sense? That I just wish I'd had these tools when I was younger. And how many of you can feel that as well? Boy, I wish I'd known this 20 years ago, because I would have saved myself an awful lot of stress. I would have saved myself an awful lot of pills, to be honest. And to me, it's like, I really don't want that anymore. I don't want that drama anymore. And I think one of the greatest lessons I ever learned about overwhelm was to recognize what was just pure drama. And I was amazed how many friends I had that seemed to get their jollies out of drama. And I literally started to say to them, something, that is just drama stuff. And I really can't deal with that at the moment. I'll talk about it when I've got a bit more mental space that I can give to it. But right now, I'm too overwhelmed myself to be dealing with, your best friend's drama. Yeah. Have you noticed that the people who love drama don't just give you theirs, they give you everybody that they know and their drama as well. Yeah, not for me anymore. Don't need it anymore. Sometimes you just need to be selfish and take care of you. If they love you, they'll understand. All right? So I actually tell the truth. I actually say, hey, normally I would really want to hear this story, but quite honestly, right now, I'm in the middle of trying to sell my house and do this and do that, and I really don't have room for it unless it's really important to you that I do. And I normally will say that. And it's amazing how many people say, no, actually, it's not that important. Okay, thank you. Now, the question is, do I find that checking up with some of the viewers every now and then, it isn't stressful to me, right? And you know why it isn't? I can remember when I've been in that level of overwhelm. I can remember when I've been that emotionally overwhelmed, that really, just a word here and there made a difference. I didn't need a whole lot of fixing. I needed somebody to think about me. And so if you know somebody who's in overwhelm, let me ask you guys this. When you are in overwhelm, what helps you the most? All right? What is it that helps you the most when you are in overwhelm? Perhaps we can give that message to the viewers. Jean-Paul Sartre said, every word has consequences and every silence too. Think about that. I have one slot of my day that says, keep in touch with family and friends. How long does it take to just type a quick note. Hi, Nyasha. We're talking about overwhelm today. Abraham Lincoln even said, I have been driven many times to my knees by the overwhelming conviction that I had absolutely no other place to go. Isn't that amazing that a man so incredibly powerful had moments of absolute desperation where the only thing he could do was pray? I have been driven many times to my knees by the overwhelming conviction that I had absolutely no other place to go. You know, he couldn't find an answer in his mind, so he had to pray for one. How many of you relate to that? All right. How many of you have got, I really don't know what to do here and I don't have the answer. And the answer is pray on it. All right. Just know that you don't have to fix it today. I am amazed how many times I look at what is going on and I go, I don't know the answer here. I just am responsible for having faith that everything will happen in the right order. By the way, I do put up, I don't know if any of you do this, but to help me from not being overwhelmed, I actually have a mantra, if you like, that I say to myself. I'm just trying to find it. There we go. Every morning, I set this up for every morning and it comes back to me again every night. And I headed it up, all is unfolding as it should. And I say to myself, it's called an affirmation. I say to myself, I do not need to fear. I need to take one step at a time. I can do this in serenity, and I am working on what I can. Now, that's pretty simple, isn't it? All right. So Jody's saying, when I'm overwhelmed, I need time to sit quietly and process, to get my emotion under control and find options for the issues. Prayer time helps tremendously for me too. Yes. How many of you have really learned that this year, that getting our emotions under control is a major part of reducing our stress? Okay. But what if but what if it doesn't? All right, get balance. And so the interesting thing though, Jody, and may I ask you about this, because one of the things that I have noticed in life is that when I sit down to think, process, I also have a lot of negative thoughts that come in. So how do you cope with that? Yes, you're saying, a little bit off topic, but I was a little surprised this week due to the fact that my boss told incredible lies about me to my superior. It's due to the insulting words she called me. But she refuted. Did you just let it go? Or did you, I guess, how do you know that? Did the boss talk to you about that? The superior boss? And you know, that's very upsetting when somebody tells lies about you. But it is their perception, all right? It may not be a lie to them. It may be a lie to you, but it may not be a lie to them. Sometimes, some of you might have noticed this. Sometimes, you know, your idea is this, and the other person's idea, saying exactly the same thing, is different. And I always use the example of the word dog, D-O-G. You know, if I tell you to think about a dog, I will have probably as many different ideas of what that looks like as viewers that I've got watching or listening. The reason I say that is because, you know, we each see a different dog. You know, some people see a little white fluffy thing. Some people see, you know, dirty great German Shepherd. Some people see, you know, it depends, you know, what your idea of a dog is. All right. Jody is saying the prayer helps me to quiet that negative tape in my head. Yes, very important. And also, the more processing and option finding time I give myself, that also quells the negative quite often. Yes, and that is why, you know, I make sure that I do have that little affirmation to myself every morning and every night. All right, I don't have to worry. Everything's unfolding as it should. It might not be the way that I thought it should, but it is happening the way that it should. I think that's terribly important. And, you know, I also think that working out, you know, some people say don't get caught up in the what if monster. But, you know, I think the way you get rid of the what if monster is to know what you're going to do. You know, if the fact is that this could go wrong, and that's a negative, then to spend some time going, yes, if that does happen, what am I going to do? Plan B, and if possible, plan C as well. So that releases an awful lot of stress and overwhelm. So that if it does happen, it does go wrong, then you know you were ready for it. I think that's very releasing. All right, so she refuted all that she did. This is Nyasha continuing. She even reported me as a troublesome worker on the team, but I am not. I am a hard worker, just slow at what I do. That is your perception, all right? You perceive yourself as being a hard worker, but slow. But can you see any way, Nyasha, that somebody else can see your behavior as negative to the team, all right? That you sit down when nobody else does, when you do all sorts of things. So I think it's possible you are both right. That is what I want you to sort of try and get a handle on. Is it possible that you are both right? All right? You don't see what you do as troublesome or negative in terms of the team, but it is possible that she does. So, I would, how did you find this out is what I want to know. How did you find out that she reported you as a troublesome worker? Did she tell you? She confronted you about your actions, and I told her the reason for it, and she said, no, that's not true. She didn't. She even disciplined me in front of fellow co-workers. Also, she needed witnesses. Yes, it is possible. So, yeah, and it is possible that she needed witnesses. So that is not necessarily a negative. One of the things that is important in life is that, it's not he said, she said, the two different versions. If there were witnesses to the conversation, then, other people heard her warn you, or to let you know that your actions were negative to the team. What was your response to that? Did you say to her, I am sorry to hear that, and I apologize for being a hard worker who is slow? What behavior would you like to see from me that is within my capability? Did you ask her for what she wanted to see as opposed to what she is witnessing? Because that is an important part of it. And if she says, I want to see you working like everybody else and not stopping 3 times, then you can say, would you rather I worked more slowly to create that? Is that what you're saying? Because at the speed at which I work, it does tire me out a little bit. All right. So you're saying you're not unruly. I'm very respectful. She included my dad within the discussion, and someone on the team told my dad what she said. Okay, so there's more to this story. Now you've got your dad judging you as well. Is that correct? So that is overwhelm, by the way, Nyasha. It is actually on topic rather than off topic. If you've got an issue, we've got corners of our lives that keep us in balance. All right. If you imagine that life is a chair, and if you think about it, a chair has 4 legs on it. And actually, I didn't draw that very well, did I? All right, so a chair's got 4 legs on it. And, one is family and friends, and one is your work, and one is, your health and your spiritual. And so if you look at it, if somebody, takes away your family and friends leg and also takes away your work leg, your balance is totally off. All right. So I want you to understand it's quite normal for you to feel overwhelmed at the moment. Okay. Because 2 of your main support areas are wobbly at the moment. All right. So you were overwhelmed by your emotion and you went off to have a cry. Okay. So I think it's understandable. The question is, are you in contact with her superior as well? And how do you know it went to her superior? I wonder what the other viewers would do about this. I know what I would do about it, but that is just my way of dealing with things like this. If I thought somebody had made a judgment about me that was totally unfair, I would probably write a letter and say it has come to my notice that this was said, or this was said to me in public in front of witnesses. And at the time, I was emotionally overwhelmed by it, but I would like to take a moment to address it. And what I heard said was this, and this. I feel that to be a little unfair due to the fact that I am a hard worker, but I know that I am slow, and I believe that you were aware of that before I was employed. I have that restriction. But I would like to ask what behavior I can show you that would demonstrate my intent to improve. All right, that's what I'd be looking for. And say, you know, would it be better that I work more slowly and not get as tired? All right. Nyesha saying, indeed, it's a bit overwhelming, but that's because I'm not like this. I'm generally respectful. This isn't an everyday occurrence. Of course. So you were disrespectful, is what I'm hearing here. To whom were you disrespectful, your daddy or the boss? Or both? Ah, okay. So your daddy came to the work as well and told me what she told him. He advised you to let it go and do your work and to also forgive her. But I can't. Why can't you? I know it's not fair, but life isn't fair. All right. And I think if I could wish one thing for you this year, Nyasha, it would be for you to understand that life isn't always fair. Life isn't always honest, and life isn't always kind. But you know, I think your daddy might be right. So the way that you might find balance is to actually ask for, give it to her in writing that you understand what she said, and whilst you believe it to be, and whilst you believe that, don't say that it's not true. Say that you believe that you are hardworking but slow. And all right, so Nyasha's saying, well, I started to shout and told her what she did was wrong and was disrespectful by shouting. I didn't have a calming tone. Absolutely. All right, so you can see that. I don't know many bosses that are going to like you if you shout at them and tell them they're wrong. It's like human nature. Right? It's just like, I had it happen with a boss of mine, right, who told me I lied about something. And that was totally untrue. And really, I had to really take a deep breath, Nyasha, and I go, did you just say that I lied? Is that what you're trying to tell me? And I said, wait a minute, let me prove that I didn't. And I literally went away and I got and by the way, he did that in public. And I went away and got the proof and came back and in public said, I'd like you to just see this. And I want to tell you, is this a signature that tells me to do this thing here? Because if so, I did not lie. I was instructed to do this. Right? And it was just like, I didn't call him names. I just factually. So I think it's wonderful that your daddy came to help out here. And Nyasha, I don't think it's right that she says these things about you, but I also know that it is just her perception. And the choice that you have, Nyasha, is would you rather not have the job? See, I think that is the catch-22 for you, which is you do have a job and it does make you a little bit of money. And I'm certain that your family appreciates that you are doing that. All right, we don't have a whole lot of time left, so let me continue on this one. Some people believe holding on and hanging in there a sign of great strength. However, there are times when it takes more strength to know when to let go than to do it. It was your superior who advised you to let it go. Good. But like I said, I can't because my mind is constantly replaying the event. And I know she's wrong, but won't own up to it. So the superior knows your side of the story, I gather. Is that correct? Because if your superior said, let it go, I would hear that in a very positive way. All right? For her superior to say, don't worry about it, let it go, means that they are supporting you in some way. Can you see that? How does everybody else hear this? All right, because if I had a member of staff and I heard two sides of a story, and I turned to the member of staff and said, don't worry about it, let it go, it would mean that I don't totally believe the one story. That's, I'm thinking about human nature here. Maybe your boss, your superior, not the one higher up, the one you report to, does this all the time about different people. Maybe she's always racking on people. And that would make the person up here, go, hang on, here she goes again. So it might not be as bad as you think, Nyasha. I would look at the upside. I think it's great that your daddy came to support you in this. And I would thank him for that. Yeah. And so he does understand. That is the superior understands. Yes, he does. And there's a signed document there stating you had surgery in 2016, which makes you dizzy. And exactly, they know that of you. So I think your daddy is right here, Yasha. I think you need to know, I would pray for her to find some compassion here. It might never happen. And there comes Beth. Hi, Beth. And Beth is saying, I'm hanging on at work. The person I have issues with will bring their own neck in time. Yep. Karma is a you-know-what. Yeah, this is right. I agree with you, Beth, all right? And, so Nyasha, first of all, I want to send you a hug. And I understand why you're upset. And I understand that it's not fair. And I understand that she should not do that. And she shouldn't do it in front of other people. But, she doesn't know that. Right? She doesn't have that understanding yet. All right? She thinks that is her power, is to embarrass you, because that's what happened, right? To be called out in front of other people, believe me, I know because it happened, is very embarrassing. And it's not fair. But what it does, Nyasha, is it shows the other people, her lack of management skill. Right? I was always taught that, you always praise people in public and you reprimand them in private. Why? Because it affects the rest of the team. Yes, you see, and Beth, who's also a manager, says the same thing here, Nyasha. She doesn't have balance. It's her problem, right? And Beth agrees, let it go and be happy and work hard. Just continue to do your job. That is, if you can, see it as her issue, not yours. Because it sounds to me like the higher up boss knows that you work hard and that you have reasons for stopping when you do. And It's sad that she sees it that way, but I don't think, you can basically crawl over coals and she's not going to see it differently. All right. So others, Nyasha's saying that others have told me that's what she normally does. All right. But a lot more. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that, this is not your problem, honey. It's hers. And her boss apparently can see that. And that's good. You are safer than you think you are. And this is an ego thing now, Nyasha. All right. You don't think it's fair, and it isn't. But it's not going to change. All right. It's not going to change until this person doesn't have the job anymore. And quite honestly, every time she reports somebody for whatever reason, the person above her just is adding it all up. Yes. Isn't that true, Beth? Beth's saying sometimes those type of people are looking for a reaction. They hope to scare you. They're a bully. Really, I've got to say that. It's a bullying tactic. Don't give her the pleasure of reacting that way. All right. So, it's a learning for you, Nyasha, if you like. When it next happens, just literally look her in the eyes and say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I actually work really hard, but I know I am slow, and you know why I am slow. Would you like me to be slower and not need to take the break? Tell me what you need. All right. And, quite honestly, if you can do that. Yeah. Beth's saying she's in retail. All right. She runs a store. So keeping her balance is key to keeping herself sane. Yeah. I think that's true for all of us, though, Beth, don't you? That keeping our balance is the key to keeping yourself sane. You remember what I said? I started the overload decluttering by being creative because I knew that would set me up mentally to do the rest of the tasks intelligently and with creativity. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret to getting started is breaking your overwhelmed tasks into small, manageable tasks and then starting on the first one. Right? Overwhelm is when you can't get your ducks in a row. Okay, so Nyasha's saying, okay, thanks for explaining it to me. I know it wasn't fair towards me. I wasn't generally worried because I know others know why I'm doing this. It's just she's not, Nyasha. Yeah, Nyasha, well done. All right. And it's okay that you got upset. Not okay that you shouted, but you shouted because it wasn't fair. I just need you to learn to be an adult. An adult doesn't shout. An adult looks the person in the face and goes, I find that a little unfair. Right? Because you already know why I am slow, and I am sorry that you see it that way. What is it you would have me do that I'm capable of doing? She needs to accept the fact that you are not capable of doing it the way other people do. All right. Thanks, Beth. As usual, your input is always valuable. And Beth says, well, I got to clock in. Breathe, everyone. Life is good. Life is up and down. Just remember to rise and fall, rise above the ignorance. They don't see what we see. Beth, that's what I say, that so often, what people, the people that do nasty things to us are people who haven't learned what we have learned. That is so true, Beth. And I keep saying that to myself, if they knew any better, they would do this differently. But I cannot afford to let it affect my day. It may not be fair. and it may not be right, but I'm not going to be able to change them. They've got to learn this, and they will eventually learn it the hard way. They haven't spent the hours, trying to improve themselves the way that you guys have. And by the way, Nyasha, how is Erin? She's doing remarkably well under the circumstances. I'm amazed at what she is coping with, and it makes me humble to watch what she is doing. Is there an art to letting things go? Because I don't know how or why, all right? And she, the boss said that she couldn't take the back chat from you, always questioning her suggestions. Yeah, I don't know many bosses that can, quite honestly, Nyasha. She doesn't want your input, honey. So I would stop back chatting her. If she asks for your opinion, give it, but otherwise, just keep quiet. It's going to make your life a lot easier. If she says, does anybody have any suggestion on how to do this, then answer. But if she doesn't ask for it, just do what she tells you to. Unless it's risky. I will work on how to let go as another topic. Jody, if you could just make a note for me. Ways, I don't think any of us know, but we can give you some tips. It takes practice, Nyasha. All right, I do have to go because I've got the next deadline coming up, which is showing my house. So what I want to do is to say, I hope that some of you found some value in this broadcast. And if you did, please make sure that you hit the thumbs up below. And please make sure that you let other people know that we do the work that we do. I think the interesting thing is not many people know that we do this. I love you too, Beth. Thank you so much. Big hugs. And thank you for making us smile. And it was interesting. Somebody said to me the other day, the broadcasts are so serious. And I'm going, yeah, actually, if you want to believe that, that's true. People are dealing with very serious things and we're trying to help them. And so I don't know about you, but this learning thing on Friday lunchtimes, I like that we can keep it focused on that. Tonight, we're going to smile a lot. We've got some wonderful things that people wrote in exams and tests and things that I hope will make you all chuckle. All right, so Nyasha's saying, okay, thank you. Yes, I stopped talking to everybody on the team as a result of that. Nyasha, don't completely stop, right? Just stop negative stuff. Just say hello to everybody. Hope you're well. Try and learn. Have you ever read the book? Nyasha, have you ever read the book? Hang on a second. How to Win Friends. I'm sorry, this is in capital. All right, have you ever read the book called How to Win Friends and Influence People? Probably it is available on YouTube these days. I really recommend that you read this book, Nyasha. It was written a lifetime ago, but it has some really good skills on what to do with difficult people, how to treat people well. And I think you would learn a lot by it. Nyasha's saying, thanks, Mama Sal. You tend to make life struggles a whole lot easier. I've said my normal morning greetings and that's it. Yeah. But what I would do, though, is I would start getting really interested. I would have a little challenge to yourself and say, I'd like to find out one more thing about everybody on the team. I would like to make it a point of complimenting everybody on the team at least once a week. Oh, I like that eyeshadow, or you look really happy today. I would find nice things, and that book will help you. It has lots of really great ideas that you can start practicing. Don't advertise it. Just work hard and test yourself, Nyasha. Every day ask yourself, did I stay away from negativity at work today? Okay, it's a pleasure, honey. I hope it helps. By the way, for the rest of you, thank you so much for being here. I wouldn't do the work that I do without you, so thank you for helping me help other people. And for all of you that are in overwhelm, I just keep it simple. Prioritize it. Is the first thing. All right. Make sure you know what you're doing, and then work out what's important to me is not necessarily important to other people. So just make sure you've got the balance right on that one. And then last of all, just work at it systematically. I cannot tell you how many times I just traveled around my house because I get bored doing one thing too much. So I just moved to the next room and do a little bit, and moved to the next room and do a little bit, and just kept rotating. And I took my social media into my kitchen so I didn't get tempted to sit on my bed and get caught up in social media. I took all that to the kitchen, so I had to stand and work at it if I wanted to reply. Make sense? So be creative in what you do that helps you be more productive. Nyasha, keep working on yourself. You're doing a great job, honey. Really are. Erin, I am so amazed at what you're doing. And to all of you, Jody, Beth, Lauren, all of you who are part of the core team. And Kerry, I haven't had an update. I don't know what's going on socially. I don't even know if you're still listening. But let me know what's going on for you if you can. All right, everybody, I'm out of here. Time for the showing of the house. This is DearMamaSal saying, look after one another, and I thank you for doing that. But most of all, remember to look after yourself. Bye-bye for now.